1 Corinthians chapter 1. That's the second reference. I actually have 4 references for us to look at first, and then I'll teach the lesson tonight based on these verses. So 1 Corinthians 2:14. But the natural man receiveth not the things of the Spirit of God, for they are foolishness unto him, neither can he know them, because they are spiritually discerned. So an unsaved man does not see things as a Christian sees things. Spiritually, he is maybe disinterested or unable to receive what is spiritual. So that's what 1 Corinthians 2:14 is telling us. The unsaved man has a different viewpoint, has a different way of thinking, has a different outlook on life. His viewpoint is his, not based on the Bible, and he is not able to receive spiritual things because he's dead spiritually. Now come to 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse number 18. 1 Corinthians 1:18. So we'll look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 references, and then we'll teach the lesson. 1 Corinthians 1:18. For the preaching of the cross is to them that perish foolishness. So right away we have an attitude or heart attitude about spiritual things. The Christian, of course, believes in the cross because they heard it through the gospel preaching. And preaching is what God uses to save men. But the preaching of the cross, to those who are lost, to those who perish, it is foolishness. That's their understanding. But unto us which are saved, it is the power of God. Look at verse 21. Verse 21. For after that, in the wisdom of God, the world by wisdom knew not God. All right, so the way the world thinks and reasons things out, they rejected Jesus Christ, rejected the Bible, and they turned him away because that's not what they think they need. And they think that they are being very intelligent and very rational and very smart when they turn away from God. It pleased God by the foolishness of preaching to save them that believe. Look at verse 25. This is all part of the lesson tonight. Because the foolishness of God is wiser than men, and the weakness of God is stronger than men. So far we're looking at some verses that says that the wisdom of this world, the wisdom of people, is very anti-God, and they are not spiritually able to give us any spiritual advice. Keep that in mind. Now come to 1 Timothy chapter 6 and verse number 20. I'm having you turn to these verses because it's easy to find. They're all in the New Testament. 1 Corinthians 6:20. And I'll go ahead and read. O Timothy, keep that which is committed to thy trust, avoiding profane and vain babblings and oppositions of science, falsely so called. So Paul warns Timothy about science that is not real science. The term is fake science, which is a very common term nowadays. Fake this, fake that. And so he is ahead of the modern times, Paul is, and he says science falsely so called is not real science. Now keep that in mind. Science that is of the world is not true science in many ways, and I'll explain further about that. Now turn to Colossians chapter 2 and verse number 8. Colossians 2:8. All part of the bundle of scriptures, and then I will explain in just a minute and then get to the lesson. And you will see why I had these verses read first. Colossians 2:8. Beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit, after the tradition of men, after the rudiments of the world, and not after Christ. So the word itself by its nature is anti-Christ, anti-God, and we are not to get confused or tangled up with the philosophies of the world and the traditions of men, because they are man's ways of looking at life through their lens, through their own viewpoint, and it's not the way we should look at life. So we have a conflict here between what God says and his wisdom and man's wisdom. They're not compatible. But wait, there's more to the story. Now, come to Matthew chapter 16, and this is the last reference before I begin to teach on what my subject is tonight. Matthew 16, verses 1 through 4. Though we have just read that there is false science, there's bad philosophy, which all leads to bad morality and bad worldview, we come to Matthew 16, which we have a little slight change. Matthew 16, verse number 1. The Pharisees also with the Sadducees came, and tempting desired him that he would show them a sign from heaven. Verse 2. He answered and said unto them, when it is evening, ye say, it will be fair weather, for the sky is red. And in the morning, verse 3, and in the morning, it will be foul weather today, for the sky is red and lowering. O ye hypocrites, ye can discern, notice now, ye can discern the face of the sky, but can ye not discern the signs of the times? Now, verse 3 is important because it does say, even though they are spiritually discerned, spiritually unable to receive truth, he says, you can discern the face of the sky. You can discern that. In other words, all this means there are some things that an unsaved man can say and teach that is not really wrong. In other words, if we would use weather, they can decide or discern what the weather is going to be because of the color of the sky. They can discern this is going to be bad weather, it's going to rain here, it's going to be a good day. They can see these things, but they're not saved, they're not spiritual. But they can see some things and know some things because they have lived in this world, they have some experience, for example. Now, what we have here is you and I would not go to an unsaved counselor for marital counseling, or some single going to someone about counseling for getting married. We would not do that. We would not go to someone who is of the world to get spiritual advice. We would go to a Christian who has a biblical viewpoint and a foundation to get biblical advice. That's what we would do. But is it also true that there are some people who are in this world that they have some wisdom about some things? They have some smarts about some things. They're not all evil. They're not saved, but they're not all evil in what they teach and what they say. So there's a lot of people like that in this world that are not born again, but they have common sense. We know some Christians who don't have common sense. So I just want to say that though they be blind to spiritual truth and Christ rejectors, they have some sense about weather. If you study some of the sciences and some of the disciplines, you will find out that people who study animal behavior, they're very accurate. I'll give you an example to make the point that not all unsaved people are wrong about what they say. They say if you are attacked by a bear, black bear, grizzly bear, both of them have different ways of thinking and acting. One of them, you act like you're dead, you go in a fetal position, cover your face. The other one is you act big. Now, I forget which one. Is it the grizzly bear you act big, or is it the black bear? It doesn't matter. If a bear comes to me, I go somewhere, I run. But they say never run from a bear, because they can run fast. Never climb a tree. Now, if you say, well, you're not a Christian, I'm not going to believe what you say, you'd be foolish. Because they have some wisdom and experience about how their behavior is. So don't climb a tree if you're being chased by a bear, because they can outclimb you. And don't try to outrun a bear because they can outrun you. That is just pure fact. So they have some sense about that. When you're snorkeling or when you're skin diving or something, don't ever reach your hand into a hole in the reef, because you might get bit by a moray eel. So don't ever do that. How do they know not to do that? Because they have some good sense about things. Did you see SpaceX catch Starship rocket booster as it came back to Earth? It was, what, last year? That is amazing. Did you see that? It was like a video going forward and coming backwards. That is amazing. Now that is real science. I only bring that up to say, Elon Musk, I don't think is a Christian. But is he smart? Does he have sense about some of these things? Absolutely. And so he can do that, and he knows what he's talking about. That's not fake science. So unsaved people can have good sense about a lot of things. And so though there be false science and bad education, there are some people who have some sense about things that we can copy. We can say, okay, that's good advice. Now, there are excellent doctors and surgeons around. You may have some of those, but they may not be Christian. But they're excellent in what they do. Well, if their advice to you about medicine is sound, you should practice it. So there are some things that we say that they're not wrong, even though they're not Christian. They have some sense. Common sense, a lot of times, comes from common people who are not really educated. So I shift from educated people who have a skill and a knowledge and intellect, wisdom about certain things, like medicine, auto mechanics, and so on. But now we come to people who are not really, quote, sophisticated people. In other words, they don't have a 4-year college degree or even a doctorate degree like that, but they have common sense. So the title tonight is about common sense from common people for everybody. Common sense from common people for everybody. So I want you to see that there are some people who have sense that we can say, oh, that's a good idea. That's a good thing to think about. First of all, here's one statement that I want you to hear. Some of them are from farmers, from regular people, retailers, country people, people from different parts of the country. One particular segment I have here is about wisdom from an old Minnesota farmer. And the grandson wrote down all these things I will give to you when it's the farmer's quotes, and he wrote a book about it. I bought that book when I was in Minneapolis several years ago, about 4 years ago. I thought as I was browsing through it, wow, this is a good source for illustrations and to teach some truth. That common people who are not even Christians, they have some good sense. So first one is from a quote from an unknown source. Quote, what gets rewarded gets done. That's the common sense thing. Let's think this through. What gets rewarded gets done. Think about that. What gets rewarded gets done. How do you get someone to do something? Well, if you reward them, it'll get done. If you pay them, it'll get done. If you acknowledge them, it'll get done. The approval of peers or superiors or someone in that hierarchy, way to go. I want you folks to know today at our meeting that Mr. So-and-so or Sister So-and-so, they got the job done, and because of them, we got this. You know what that is? Acknowledgement, and it gives that person a sense of, I did something right. Look at other people happy with me. Pleasure that he receives because he's done something that he should have done. He's rewarded, and that motivates him to keep doing something that he should do. Matthew, our little Matthew, he is a real natural artist. He has God-given ability. He's got good eyes and good sense. And whenever he shows me something, he's so proud to show something. He's like a cat who's a mouser and brings a little mouse at your door, and he does like that. So proud, so proud. And so our proud mouser, Matthew, he gives a painting, and he wants me to say something very positive. My saying to the kids is good, better, best. I look at that and say, and he'll say, good. I say, He says, better. And he's really smiling, and he says, I know it's not the best. I said, it's not the best, but it is really good. Not better, it's really good, man. It's so good. This is so good. This is better than I could have done at your age. Really? You know what that is? It's affirmation. It's a pat on the back. It's way to go. Way to go, big boy. Good job, but I know we can do a better job still. It's good, but you can do a better job. So what gets rewarded gets done. It's really true. It's really true. It's something so simple. We overlook that. We're such sophisticated people. We forget to think that people are people with feeling. And if you want to get them to do something that is right to do, just encourage them by saying, good job. Good job. Well done. All right. Now here's another one. My thought is this. A lot of good is done, and at the same time, a lot of corrupt things are done because people are seeking someone's approval. So based on that statement, what gets rewarded gets done. A lot of people do good because of that. A lot of people also do wrong because of that. The pressure that someone feels to be accepted is very strong. People get into gangs, people do a lot of things because they are getting rewarded for it by acknowledgement. I always wonder why these oil protesters in Germany, they block traffic during rush hour, they don't move, honking up horns and cars, and people drag them out of the way, throw them to the sidewalk, get in the car, move again, and they get in the way again. They get hurt. And I'm looking at that, I'm thinking, what is motivating these people to put their lives in jeopardy like that? It's a cause that they believe in. And when it's all said and done for that day, they huddle together, this little group of people, protesters, who thinks oil is bad. How silly is that? They drove in a car that required oil to get to the protest spot. Somebody is telling them, you are saving the planet. Pat that in the back, way to go, you guys are really the heroes of this world. They got black eye, they got broken rib, and they're saying, yeah, I don't feel like a hero right now, but you know what? And they're all praising this character. He'll go back tomorrow again. Try it again. You know why? He's rewarded. And he'll do something like that again. He's rewarded. Can you see the common sense about this? And so you're saving the planet. You're making a difference. And they really think that they are. Now, around here, graffiti on the freeway signs, I don't know how they do that. I don't know when they do that. But I know one thing. Someone is getting rewarded for that. Someone's feeling like a real man, a real tough guy to get up there at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning at some time to spray paint these signs. Dangerous proposition, but someone's doing that because they believe at the end, someone's going to say, "Way to go, bro, give me a high five." And that is what's fueling their risking their life. What gets rewarded gets done. That's very true. So the danger, the risk of all being lost is because someone rewards them and the reward is worth the risk to them. Now, what gets a Christian to do something? Let's shift with it. What gets a Christian to do something? What is his reward? What is he striving for? What does he get for risking his life for serving Jesus Christ? Well, not doing something bizarre, not doing something risky, not doing something that is wrong or illegal. It's, "Well done, thou good and faithful servant." Now, that pushes the Christian, that possible reward from Jesus Christ helps him to do something that he should do. A lot of people may not like what he's doing, but if he's thinking, "I want to get a well done from Jesus Christ himself," that motivates him, and that's his reward. And so Christians may not think about it all the time, but a Christian is thinking, "My reward comes from Jesus Christ later, and so I will do something for him in his lifetime." It could be a lot of different things. I will trust him for everything. Now, another way that people are motivated to do something besides what gets rewarded gets done, another motivation people have is this. In other cases, it's the love of money. The love of money is the root of all evil. So why do people do what they do? Why do people get corrupt? Many times if you did the investigation, you would find out that it's because there was money involved. The payoff was worth the risk of losing your testimony, losing your reputation. A lot of people lose everything, and you wonder, why did he do that? Why did he turn 180 degrees when we all thought he was going to vote this way? Why did he? Well, whatever the situation, sometimes the motivation can be so contrary to what is common sense and moral, you think it has to be he's getting rewarded by someone or some people, or there's money involved. So when we say follow the money trail, that's a very true thing, because the Bible says the love of money is the root of all evil. A man will lose his family and everything for more money. It's unbelievably true that people do that. That's the motivation. How do people get to do something? It's because they're rewarded and because there is a love of money. Then number 3, here's why people do things. A good scare. A good scare. Here's what a quote says. Common sense. A good scare is worth more to a man than advice. I'll read that again. A good scare is worth more to a man than advice. That means all the good advice he hears and he receives in his brain, he says, I agree, doesn't move him. But what moves him is a good scare. A good scare moves him. A mechanic at the shop where your car is says, well, I took apart this and, here's why your brakes are squeaking. It's because of this. Now, your brake pads are thin. That's what you're hearing. You're hearing that squeaking. Now, you can still drive your car. Now, you're a woman, and they get the women real scared. Now, you can drive your car, but I would not go down a hill. Well, what does that mean? The woman has come to a conclusion in her head by what he says. Your car's okay. It'll still stop. Just don't go down hills. You know what that is causing her feel? Fear. Man, I live in Kailua. I got to go to Napali every day, and I can't go down hills. But you're saying that it's okay. It's okay for a little while. So he's not giving her pressure to get the job done now, but he is. What is motivating her? Fear that her car will not stop when she brakes. That's motivating for her. And so a good scare is worth more than a man's demanding advice. That's very true. That's very true. You know, some people, they know the truth, they don't do anything about it until they're forced to, until they feel the pain. They just wait until the very last second, and then they do something about that because they didn't feel it. It didn't hit them emotionally. Intellectually, it makes sense to them, but emotionally, it wasn't enough to make them do something about it. Now, that's a very good motivator, a good scare, a good scare. All right. Now, here's something about balance. Here's some quotes about balance from Minneapolis, from Minnesota farmer. Excuse me, a Minnesota farmer. Quote about work, balance. A hobby gives your mind rest from your work. Now listen to the good sense about this one. I don't think the farmer ever had a testimony in his book about being a Christian. The grandson did not say my grandfather's a Christian, but he had good sense. Quote, a hobby gives your mind rest from your work. Take an interest in something besides your work. That's what the old farmer said. You know what he was saying? He was saying, we farmers work hard, and whatever you do, you work hard too, I guess. But it says, don't let it consume you. He says, take time out in your life to get an interest of something that occupies your mind and distracts you from your work, your 8-hour job. Makes sense to me. Take a break is what he's saying. Don't think about work all the time. You know, a football coach, college, or especially a professional, they're consumed by their work. When preseason begins, he's hardly home. When the season begins, he's rarely home. You might see him after a game at the lock in the coach's office and with the assistant coach talking about this, talking about that. They are consumed by work. And a lot of times coaches, they have family problems, they have children problems because of being so consumed by work. It could be other kinds of work too. But they are so consumed by that. And so the farmer says, get a hobby. Do something that you can just do and relax and enjoy. You know what tennis players do, professional tennis players do when they got time off? You never guess what they do to get away from their professional tennis. You know what these tennis players do all the time? Would you like to know? Somebody asked me. Okay, I'm glad you asked me. They like to golf. They like to golf. It's so different from the sport of tennis, but it's a diversion. And so the farmer's right. Take a break from the routine. Now here's another thing about balance. Quote, allow your children to be children. Oh, good advice. The childhood years are few, the adult years many. Having chores to do is important, so is having time to play. That's good advice. Somebody said, my kids, I can tell them anything and they won't resist me. I can tell them something hard for them to do, difficult for them to do, but they won't resist me because, he says, I have their heart. I play with them. And that's why I can tell them anything that's right as a father to my kids, and they will easily go along with it because they know I love them because I play with them. He says, I have their heart. I've won their heart. I've not only told them something that intellectually makes sense, I've told them something that makes sense here, makes sense spiritually and biblical, and they gladly do it because they know I love them. And how do they know that? Because he plays with them. You know, some people that are very strict, their kids don't like that a whole lot. Sometimes kids need to be treated strictly or firmly, and that's all part of being disciplined and training. But on the other side, you need to have some fun with your kids. And so for whoever this may apply to that's listening here or there, young parents or old parents or so on, kids living under the roof still yet, let your kids be kids, and it's important to play with them. And that's very important. All right. Train up a child the way you used to go, absolutely. But as you train up children, parents need to also remember they need to enjoy living in the home, and when they grow old, they will not despise church, the Bible, and they don't hate and resent being a Christian. Balance. Now work. Oh, by the way, in church, we should have balance in church. Wednesday night and Sunday morning are different days, different times, different people, and so I teach different things. I can't always teach one thing all services. When we had night services, I had to have 3 things to teach: one Sunday school, morning, and Wednesday. And so that was fine, but I could not, and I never could feel comfortable teaching on one subject alone or focus on one topic alone that was a favorite of mine, and then other things. I had to have some balance. You can't focus only on one thing. You have to have balance. Balance in work. Quote, a task started is half done. Picking up bales of hay on a 20-acre farm looks impossible until you get the first couple of bales in the wagon. Well, that's really good sense there. It's like, what? But then you get the first load in, you say, okay, we can just keep doing it. So you start, continue, 1 acre at a time, and anything worthwhile has to be done, but it is less impossible when you get something done at a time. That's good sense. An enjoyable job, he says, for one man may be torment for another. That's really funny. An enjoyable job for one man may be torment for another. Well, it just depends on the person, the personality, and so on like that. So if you like being on a farm baling hay, okay, you might enjoy that. But if another guy says, oh, I can't do this after one day, well, don't force him because he's not cut out for that. It's because he's not manly, I guess. This one is so good. Anyone can farm. The old Minnesota farmer says, anyone can farm, but not everyone is the farmer. Oh, boy, that one is so good. It has so much meaning to it. Anyone can farm, but not everyone is a farmer. You know what that really means? Anyone can teach a Sunday school lesson. Anyone can preach a message, but not everyone's a preacher. That's what that means. Everyone can pretend to be a missionary, but not everyone is a real missionary. Everyone can learn how to talk, how to give public speech through Toastmasters and be very confident, but not everyone is a pastor or preacher. It's a calling. It's not just because you are able to talk very well and say everything right that makes someone a preacher, any more than it is anyone can farm. That doesn't make him a farmer. A farmer is hard work. Yeah, I'm not a farmer because it's hard work. So talent is not the issue, it is the calling of God. Now here's some cautions the farmer gives. Caution, random cautions, warnings. Quote, being comfortable is more important than being stylish. A farmer said this, a farmer said this. Being comfortable is more important than being stylish. So why would someone look very successful, but it's not comfortable in a suit or in shoes? The farmer is saying, be comfortable. Be comfortable. That's better than being with getting the approval of a crowd of people. More better to be comfortable. Quote, this one is really interesting. A woman needs several good aprons. Now this doesn't apply to modern American Hawaii, but this is a farmer, remember, back in several years ago. A woman needs several good aprons. Listen to the sense. The kind that comes up to the neck and extends below a dress. A good apron protects the dress from splashes and spills, and it's convenient to dry hands, gather eggs, gather eggs, wipe away a child's tears, and wave when you want Joe's attention out on the back 40. That's a good apron, he's saying. That's good sense. Why buy stuff if it's not practical? Why work hard at getting something that you're not going to use very much? Why appear to be in, but it's not very functional is what they're saying. That farmer must be very Chinese to think like that because he's so frugal. All right, listen to this one from the farmer about wisdom in spending and having some cautions. Quote, bigger and more expensive machines you buy doesn't always mean more money in your pocket. How often do we think as Americans, if I get the newest this, newest that, I'll be more productive? Bigger and more expensive machines you buy doesn't always mean more money in your pocket. Sometimes it means no money in your pocket at all. Sometimes you even lose your pants. Oh boy, that's such good sense. Now, I like this one. This one is really biblical. Listen to this one. Listen to this one. Avoid neckties. It cuts off circulation to the brain and thus prevents clear thinking. Man. That one is my best. That's my best. Best advice from the old farmer. Then it says this, which is also very true. A bad habit is like a comfortable chair, easy to get into and so hard to get out of. That is so true. That's a caution. Now here's another caution you have. I cannot agree with this one. I agree about the necktie, but I can't agree about this one here. But I can understand the context in which it is said. Quote, be careful about too much bathing. A bath on Saturday night before going to town is sufficient. Too much water will weaken you, sap the strength right out of your muscles. Now that is what this old farmer said with all sincerity. I could not disagree with that more. Oh, me. Well, there's exceptions to the good sense that people have, you know. Let's look at some influence over here. A child is likely to see God as a good God if he sees God in his father. Oh, that's very true. You know why sometimes kids rebel? It's because their parents were very strict. They didn't play with them. They didn't have fun with them. Everything was a lecture, a scold to them. Everything was don't. And they got an image of God in the home, and it was not very pleasant. A child is likely to see God as a good God if he sees God in his father, which is a really good statement and good common sense. Here's another one about influence. A child may not inherit his parents' talents, but he will absorb his values. Oh man, that's so good. That's so true. Teach the child all these good things, Bible stories and truth and doctrine. Teach them all these good things, do's and don'ts, all necessary to have good education, good spiritual education. But that doesn't mean the child will be what he ought to be as an adult, because he will absorb the parent's values. What's important to a parent, it'll come out every day in the life of a child. It'll be seen. And if a child sees some kind of consistency in reality, some realness there, then that child will buy into his parents' faith. Paul says, be followers of me, even as I follow Christ. And so for all Christians, really, we say things that are true, but when the life backs it up, it becomes real to people who know us or even don't know us as closely. So Christian living really backs up what we say. A child may not inherit his parents' talents, but he will absorb his values. Very, very true common sense statement. Let's look at expectations, the thought of expectations. And so expectations, this is very, very good for us to remember too. A beautiful thing is never perfect. What does that mean? A beautiful thing is never perfect. What do you think that means? A beautiful piece of art, a beautiful thing that somebody made, a work by Michelangelo, the statue of David, painting by Leonardo da Vinci. A beautiful thing is never perfect. The Mona Lisa, the most beautiful painting in the world, they say, well, it's very subjective, but a beautiful thing is never perfect. Why is it never perfect? And what is the lesson here that is very common sense? Something that is really great, there's going to be a flaw in it. A person may be really a great person, but there's something going to be wrong with him. There always is. Why? Because he's born of flesh. And he tends to be wrong in some things, no matter how consistent he may be. And so here's another statement that ties with this one. And because I found my 6,000 quotes the other day, I was so happy to find it because I knew there's some good ones around. Quote, don't expect a crab to walk straight. You know, that's very profound. That's very profound. Don't expect the crab, don't put the crab here and make it walk straight. It'll not walk straight. You'll go crazy trying to make a crab walk straight. A crab is not capable of walking straight. What does this mean? Well, some people will never be good Christians. Some people will never be good church members. Don't make them walk straight. Quit trying, because they will always walk like a crab. Don't expect crabs to walk straight. They cannot. It doesn't mean anything, except some people just don't have a real relationship with Christ, and they never really have the initiative themselves to do what they should or live as they should, because they're like the crabs that can never walk straight. They're saved. They even maybe love the Lord a little bit, but as far as a deeper consecration, they'll never be like that, because they're like the crab. And you try to make them become like that, and it doesn't work. How many people are like that in this world? Professing Christians. This is why not everyone who's a Christian is fit to do certain things, because they're crooked. They walk crooked like a crab. I don't mean crooked like dishonest, but they just don't have it in them to be serving the Lord like they ought to. Inmates, a lot of them will never walk straight. They'll never walk straight. Give them everything that they say they want, provide for them everything like that, like some homeless people. Give them everything they ask for, and they will never clean up, never look for work, never get straight, because they're like the crab that cannot walk straight. It's a harsh reality, but that's how it is. And don't kill yourself trying to make someone walk straight, because they will not. My PCP several years ago told me, because I asked him, well, Doc, I call him Doc, I don't call him Doc, I have more respect for him, they call him Doc. Well, doctor, what do you do with patients that don't listen to your advice? He told me this, after he'd done with me, before he left the office, the room. He says, well, a long time ago, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat, I was so upset because of patients declining in health, and I keep seeing them, and they said they're going to do what I say, but they never do what I say. And then the next visit they come by, things have gotten worse, and I keep telling them, try this, don't do this. And they said, I understand, Doc, but they never do it. And then he finally said this, I realized this, I have so many other patients that I should help. I should not obsess over this one or two or however many patients that don't listen to me. I should just give my attention and all my energies to those who want to get help. That's common sense too. And so he says, I'm not going to try to get a crab to walk straight. I'm not going to feel guilty about this. I'm going to do my best, but I know there's a limitation here. Now, expectations. Quote, listen to this one. This one is also very insightful. Only once did God choose a completely sinless preacher. That's a very good statement right there. Only once did God choose a perfect preacher. You know who that was? His son, Jesus Christ. Now, the Psalms tell us this in Psalm 103, verse number 4. It says this, for he knoweth our frame, he remembereth that we are dust. Now, what can you get out of dust? Not perfection. And when it comes to perfection and expectations, you can't expect anyone to be perfect because they're dust. Anymore you can expect a crab to walk straight. It's not possible. Now, we should not give excuses for doing something wrong. Absolutely not. But we should not have such a high expectation on people that it's impossible for them to reach it. It'll give us frustration. A parent wants his children to be, quote, good. And if they're not good as they want them to be, as they expect, they might be very disappointed. They need to look at how much better they are than from what they were last year, the other year. See, like, they should have some perspective and some balance and realize that the expectation to be reasonable. Reasonable expectations is a very healthy thing for anyone to have, rather than having a high, lofty expectation nobody can reach. Why not even he himself can reach it? I'll tell you a joke a long time ago. A church in the South had a pastor in which he was very, very, very strict about writing out the Constitution and bylaws of the church. And he had a section in the Constitution and bylaws about who can join the church. And he put down so many conditions to join a church. Must be A, B, C, D, that. He said, I wrote that many years ago. He says, and then I reviewed it, and I thought to myself, man, I made all this list. He says, it's so strict, even I can't join the church. You know what that means? The expectation was too high, very ideal, impossible. Do you know that it is impossible for everyone to agree totally with everything? It's impossible. Major things should, yes, absolutely. Tongue speaking, no, never going to happen here. All these kind of things. But there's some liberty that we can have with people who are not seeing things eye to eye. And so we have to have some sense about this, and our expectations should be reasonable and not so high that not even you and I could join the church. Okay? That makes a lot of sense to me. Now, let's talk about peace. Here's what some people say about peace and how some non-scholars and non-professional people have said about peace. This one is from the farmer again. He says, marriage is like two people riding a horse together. One has to sit behind. You know what that does? When two people try to sit in the same spot, you're not going to have peace. One is to sit in the front. Okay, that spot's taken. The other guy sits in the back. Husband sits on the horse. The wife sits on the right of the horse too, sits in the back. You got to do it that way. Otherwise, you're not going to have peace. Good sense there. Good sense. Somebody's got to back off. Someone's got to say, okay, I'll take the second seat. I'll have to sit in the front. So there's God-given rules in the home that'll bring peace if people follow it. But if they try to usurp the God-given roles, they're not going to have peace. Here's another one about peace. Music washes from the soul the dust of daily life. Oh, well, I like that one. Music washes from the soul the dust of daily life. What's that about? That's about good music soothes the angry soul. Good music takes your mind to where it should go. Good music can soothe the tension and soothe that inner turmoil that you may have for many reasons. Music does that. It washes the soul from the dust of daily life. Remember, David played for Saul, and the evil spirit left him? That's what music can do. And so when we talk about peace, I talk about peace. Peace can come in different ways and from different methods and forms. Benjamin Franklin said this. He had so many good quotes. I have so many Ben Franklin quotes. Quote, he that would live in peace and at ease must not speak all he knows, nor judge all he sees. Ooh, Benjamin Franklin, if you're not a Christian, you sure have some good sense. He that would live in peace and at ease must not speak all he knows, nor judge all he sees. What is he saying? He was good at words. What was he really saying? What is the truth behind what he's saying? If you want peace, and you want to have a relaxed life, don't speak all you know. Don't judge all you see. Wasn't that good sense? How many times have you seen something in life, in your everyday routine, and you said, I can't believe he did that. I'm going to give a piece of my mind. Well, why should you? Sometimes it's necessary. I understand that. You understand that. But the idea behind that quote, that good common sense quote, is don't get uptight over everything that you disagree with. Now, when it comes to work, it's a different scenario because the context is different. In a work relationship, you must do certain things, otherwise it'll follow somebody else. Everything is connected if it's a work situation. That's why in the military, you have to have strict chain of command. Otherwise, things go afoul. Well, that's what that's about. But this is about someone personally getting upset about something because he sees something flawed, something wrong. Sometimes I haven't had too many people come up to me after church and say, you know, what you said is wrong. Very rarely have I had someone say that to me. I've had people say, let me ask you a question. You said this. What do you mean by that? Okay, that's an innocent question. And I say, what did I say? Oh, well, okay. I didn't mean to say like that. Here's what I meant to say. Oh, okay. That's not a problem. But it's been so rare, which is a blessing, that people have not come up to me and say, you know, you said this, but really that's not correct. Is that right? Yeah. Now, some people in church, not here, but some people in churches, they actually sit there with a notepad, not to take notes, but to find out the things he said wrong. Remember, there's only one perfect preacher that God sent. So what does that mean? Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone says things they wish they hadn't said. Everyone doesn't say things like they should say it. And so expectation ought to be very tempered and very, very, very reasonable. Okay? All right, let's talk about peace again. Peace. Music watches. Okay, quote. This one's fun. I like this one. For bad days. You ever go through bad days? No, not you, not me. For bad days, this quote comes from a man in the country. He says, go fishing. Very dated. Find a quiet lake where you can sit and watch the bobber and think or not. You gotta see the humor in these things. He's saying sometimes getting away will help you de-stress. Sometimes you will just relax because you're away from your routine. Some other times, a clean house, listen, a clean house, a clean car, a clean desk, a clean bedroom, having order in your life will give you some relaxation. Sometimes it's like that. You ever go to Kapilani? Kapilani has a real relaxing atmosphere. Nice shiny floors. The lines are not always straight. It's like curved. It flows like that. And you go, the colors, the decorations, and the way they have it all set up is to give you a calming experience for the patients and for visitors. It's not deliberate. It's to help you decompress. It's to help you relieve yourself of anxiety. And so sometimes peace comes like that. It's very, it has its place. Now, do you know what feng shui is? Most of you should know what feng shui is in Hawaii. It's an interior decoration method. It's really kind of religiously and kind of superstitious. So it's it goes so far as to say there's a spirit that you can bring into your house by the way things are shaped. So you have curved corners instead of rounded 90-degree corners. That'll give you more peace. It'll bring a peaceful spirit here because you have rounded corners. Things like that. You know, it's very superstitious. And but it is true that colors and the shapes of things and the way things flow, it gives you some kind of a relaxed feeling. And that's very helpful. It's very helpful. But you don't go the feng shui way. That's too severe. That's too superstitious. You don't want to do that. But sometimes a clean environment makes you feel kind of relaxed. Do you ever feel agitated because your desk is messy? Paper, you can't find anything. Oh, that just drives me crazy. I work very hard to keep my desk clean, but I'm not always neat. And it irritates me. I irritate me because it's like that. But when things are in this place, it is so calming. It is so relaxing. Well, a clear conscience is the best pillow, another quote says, which is a good one. A clear conscience is the best pillow. So settling arguments, confessing sins, a prayer time, seeking the Lord, that all clears the conscience and it gives you a real restful sleep or a restful experience in the day or something like that. Now, let me get to some Bible verses. I'll read it to you. John 14:27 says this. When it comes to peace, when it comes to rest and distressing and relieving yourself of anxiety, John 14:27 says this. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give unto you. Not as the world giveth, give I unto you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. What is he saying? Jesus is saying to the disciples, what you really need is my peace given to you. And then in Philippians 4:7, Paul says this, and the peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. So here's how this peace works out. We have the peace of God. When we get saved, we get right with Him, we get reconciled to God. We have the peace of God. We have peace with God, we have peace with God. But then as a Christian, we have anxiety, we have stress, all these things. And then when we get to meditation in the scriptures and we feel calm again, we have the peace of God. Number one, peace with God because you've been saved. No animosity, no enmity. And then as a Christian in this lifetime, which is very stressful in many cases, we can have the peace of God through all these bad situations. So these are some things that I have culled from my quotes that are practical, common sense quotes from common people for everyone. One last one here about borrowing money. This one I thought was humorous and also very telling. Always borrow money from a pessimist because she never expects it back. Isn't that very true? People who think nothing of going into debt are usually even less concerned about getting out of debt. And that's very true too. Can you see that common people have a lot of common sense, and we would benefit from listening to some of them and their wisdom, even though they may not be good Christians, all right? So truth is truth, no matter who says it. Even a donkey can tell the truth. Okay? Thank you, Father, for the Bible, and especially thank you for common sense, people that you have allowed to live and have experiences in different fields, and we learn from them. We recognize that not all unsaved people are devoid of understanding. Some of them are so wise and smart about a lot of things. We do well to listen to their advice in many areas. But naturally, the most important thing for Christians is to get sound advice from the Bible, which we will do, and we always compare that to what anybody else says. So Lord, help us to have sense and discernment about these things. There's so many things that are good to know about, and we need to just be discerning to see if it is not against the Bible. And so, Father, thank you for the relaxing time of study.